Brian Lehrer on WNYC. I mentioned at the top of the show a New York City ICE incident video that's now making the rounds online and on local TV news. Just a few blocks from my building in Upper Manhattan on Thursday, a masked ICE agent pepper sprayed a woman who was holding up her phone recording the agent's activities. You can see this in the video. And I will replay from the top of the show these short audio clips. Channel 2 later interviewed the woman, identified as 72-year-old Linda Wolf, who told them she saw a tow truck getting ready to remove an ICE vehicle that was disabled.
I said to the tow truck driver, you should be ashamed of yourself working for ICE. And he got crazy. The ICE guys came over and they just maced me. And
Channel 2 also had this short clip from after the incident. Of the incident, you'll hear the woman complain to the ICE agency, to the ICE agent about what he had done, and his response.
You just maced me.
I'm going to do it again.
You just maced me, she said, and I'm going to do it again, he said, all while wearing a mask. Channel 2 reports the woman, Ms. Wolf, is considering legal action, and AM New York reports it's illegal in New York State for the agent to even be masked while representing the government. AM New York also reports on a larger context. They say border czar Tom Homan's threatened surge of ICE detentions in New York may have now begun. Here is Homan suggesting something like that would happen after Governor Hochul signed a new law passed by the state legislature in June.
You can expect more ICE agents to go to New York because Governor Hochul signed legislation that ended our 287G agreements, where one agent can arrest one bad guy turned over by a jail. Now we got to send a whole team to look for that guy. So she took the efficiencies of the jails away in the 287G agreement. So it's math. One agent can arrest one bad guy in the safety and security of the jail, which is safer for the alien, safer for the agent, and safer for the community. But she decided to kill all that. So now we got to send more agents to do the job that would have took one person.
Tom Homan in June. AM New York reports as of this morning that there have been multiple recent ICE sightings in various boroughs. The one from Inwood was the first to really make the news, but there was another incident at a hospital emergency room in Lower Manhattan, the New York Presbyterian Lower Manhattan Hospital on Gold Street, they say, where masked ICE agents were seen detaining a man who was in the ER. For the first time, I've seen in my neighborhood uptown flyers and whistles that people are handing out. The whistles are to alert people in a given public space if an ICE agent is seen nearby. The flyers, made by the New York Immigration Coalition, are called What to Do If You See Immigration Enforcement. I have one of them in front of me. And with us now from the New York Immigration Coalition is Murad Awawdeh, who's the president and CEO of the New York Immigration Coalition. We also have City Council Member Carmen de la Rosa, who represents the Upper Manhattan neighborhood of Inwood, where that pepper spray incident was recorded. Welcome back, both of you, to WNYC. I'm sorry it's under these circumstances, but hi.
Hello, and thank you for having us.
Murad, is there a surge of ICE agents taking place in New York? To go to the larger context question first.
I wouldn't call it a surge, not a surge in the context of what we've seen happen elsewhere across the country, but we are seeing a significant increase in enforcement across not just New York City, but on Long Island and across the state of New York.
Council member, what happened in the incident in Inwood, as far as you can tell? I saw you excerpted on TV reacting to it.
Yes. Well, we started to get notifications that ICE was in the community. And I have been shouting out the mutual aid groups that have been coming together to inform us when ICE sightings are happening. You described it well at the beginning of the program, where there was an incident with a tow truck and one of our neighbors was pepper spray. People began to accumulate as they heard more that ICE had been in the community. And the ICE officers, from what I hear from folks that were on the ground when it was happening, they were aggressive just even coming out of their vehicles. They exited their vehicles shaking the mace bottles and then immediately went towards the crowd. And then that's where they pepper sprayed Linda. And we want to thank Linda for her bravery and for her courage. And this is not the first time she's apparently been on the ground. And so we thank folks like her who have been on the ground informing the community. I arrived on the scene a little bit after. There were still some folks around, but it wasn't an active scene when I got there. And what we're hearing from the community is that there's a lot of fear. Inwood, as you know, is a diverse community, but there are a lot of immigrants in our community. And the fear is palpable, the tensions are palpable. And we also had a rally on site over the weekend with Hands Off NYC and NYIC and others to make sure that our community knows that we have their back in this moment.
I couldn't tell from the wording of the AM New York article if she was also holding pepper spray in addition to her phone on which she was videotaping. Do you know either way, council member?
I don't know. In the video that I saw, I see that she's pepper sprayed and she kind of moves her face away, but it still got her. But she, she retained her position. She kind of wiped her face and continued on. I didn't see that she had pepper spray on her.
What's considered, Murad, a legitimate reason for any kind of law enforcement to pepper spray someone?
If there is no real legitimate reason to be using bear mace against a woman who's protesting your potentially illegal action of illegally detaining someone for removal proceedings. And what we've been seeing ICE do across not just here in New York City, but across the state of New York is truly act lawless. And more cases than not, they end up detaining what we call collateral individuals, people who they weren't even looking for, and then pretty much moving on. So when community members and neighbors and New Yorkers are standing up and saying, "What are you doing? This is unjust," that's not a reason to bear mace someone. And it was horrific to watch them bear mace Linda and see it in 4K, because if we didn't have people responding, New Yorkers responding to defend their neighbors, this would have been brushed under the rug, and we would probably have been told that this was a lie, as we've seen the federal government continuously lie to the American people.
Right. And council member, this is just a snippet of a video that's been making the rounds. I don't know the whole context to be as fair as we can to the agent, but certainly what we see is just the woman, Linda, standing there holding a phone, recording, and the ICE agent appears to just walk up to her and spray her in the face. If that's in fact what happened, and that's enough context to understand what happened, what kind of consequences can he face, should he face, and how could you see that he is held accountable to face them?
Yeah, well, I was heartened to hear that she will be pursuing legal action. I believe that if he did not have any cause for his actions, he should be charged with assault at the very minimum, because that is what it was. It was an assault on a person for no reason. And, I don't know legally, right? If they would bring charges against an ICE officer for deploying the bear spray, the pepper spray on a citizen. But at the very least, I'm heartened to hear that Linda will be pursuing legal action, because I think that is what it's going to take in order to make sure that we're holding these rogue agents accountable. And I also want to say, Brian, that since that incident, we've been posting videos about know your rights. And if you just see the type of comments that these videos have generated, there was a gentleman who sent me a DM saying that I should be on a T-shirt and killed in the same way that other Americans have been killed for protesting ICE. And so it is emboldening this class of violence, this type of violence. And that violence is being perpetrated by these rogue agents, in my opinion.
Listeners, we've got about 6 or 7 minutes left in the segment, and we can take some calls or texts if you can help us report this story. Have you seen a surge in ICE activity in your New York City neighborhood or in the greater New York area? 212-433-WNYC. Call or text 212-433 9692, or even if not, are you taking any new precautions against being detained by ICE because of Tom Homan's stated intention that we heard in the clip to increase ICE activity in New York? 212-433-9692. Or do you know anyone who's taking new precautions, maybe not showing up for work or to church or anywhere else where you used to see them? Has anyone listening used one of those whistles to alert anyone to an ICE vehicle or uniformed or masked ICE agents on your block or wherever? And here's one more relevant clip making some news today that pro-immigrant groups are very suspicious of, skeptical of, I think. It's Department of Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin at the National Governors Association conference over the weekend, seeming to reassure non-criminal immigrants applying for legal status that they should be okay, but even in that context, telling them they might be detained. Listen.
There's a legal system to go through. But if you choose not to even begin or not to change your status, even if you've been here 25 years, I can't help you for that, right? If you have a status change and you're working in your status change, so you overstayed your visa, but you're going through the system to change your status because you got married and you've been married to a U.S. citizen for 4 years and you're going through the family visa system, you have no criminal history, you get picked up, and you're in the court system, and you've been showing up to your court dates, you're going to be released. You may get picked up, may be detained, may go through that process, but you're going to get released because you've been showing up, you've been going to your court system, your status is changing.
DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin. So don't worry if you're taken by ICE from your family and thrown behind bars for an undetermined amount of time. While going openly through the immigration process, you'll probably not be deported if you have an otherwise clean record. Not everyone believes even that. Murad at the New York Immigration Coalition, have you heard that clip yet? It just was from yesterday or the day before. What's your reaction to that?
I think the reality that we find ourselves in is that the federal government speaks out of both sides of its mouth. People last year until earlier this year, there was a massive surge of people going to immigration court and being arrested at immigration court. And those are people who are following the process. Immigrants pursuing legal status, him saying that they have nothing to worry about is what we have been seeing, that they should have a lot to worry about, because those following the process that's written out by U.S. law are being snatched up, being ripped away from their families, and being put into detention, and then having to fight tooth and nail to get those individuals released. We saw this happening in the courthouses across New York, and it took about a year for a federal judge to bar it. And they barred it because it was in violation of ICE's own memo. ICE keeps doing it anyways. They're detaining asylum seekers. They're detaining people with pending cases, people who have green cards and going through the green card process, who are married to U.S. citizens, as his own example that he used, CPS holders, people who have done everything that Secretary Mullin says they should do, have been detained and in some cases deported. So his comments are a little bit disingenuous in the fact that he's saying do it the right way, when hundreds of thousands of people have been doing it the right way and are getting punished for doing it the right way by being detained in a prison.
Yes.
And then
3 minutes left in the segment. Let me get a few listener takes on. Listener writes, I want to make sure listeners understand that there's a surge in the Hudson Valley as well. ICE agents are out in much larger numbers and for longer periods arresting our neighbors. It's terrifying. They don't say where in the Hudson Valley they are. Michael in Queens, you're on WNYC. Michael, you have a quick question, right?
Yeah, and I've been thinking about it a lot better. I guess my question is, with Hoshel's new law and the law that prevents ICE agents from wearing masks, if I see an agent, can I call 911, call NYPD, start filming, reporting that here are agents violating the law?
Thank you. Council member?
Well, we have seen in the case where Linda was peppered spray that the community did call 911 and 911 did show up. But what happened was that when
NYPD, right?
Yes, and when NYPD showed up, the ICE agents got in their car and drove away. So we're not seeing them comply with this law or even comply with local authorities even asking them questions. So it's going to be difficult, in my opinion, to get enforcement of the no masking law. I'm not sure if Murad has anything to add to that, but we've seen that there has been difficulty even in asking questions.
One more. Jane in Hudson Heights, just south of Inwood. Jane, we've got about 20 seconds for you. Hi.
Yeah, hi. My business partner, on a project we're doing called Lady Liberty Sings, where people write music to the text on the statue, and it generates funds for immigrant legal defense. He heads up a watch team on Long Island in the Port Washington area, and he was arrested last year for using a megaphone to warn people that an ICE vehicle was in the neighborhood. He does warning, and they arrested him.
Jane, I'm going to have to leave it. They arrested him for that, is the story you're telling. So, Murad, you're going to get our last 30 seconds. I am holding your flyer from New York Immigration Coalition, what to do if you see immigration enforcement. You want to give people some concluding tips or how to get more information?
Yes, people should visit our website, nyc.org/KYR, nyc.org/KYR. All the Know Your Rights information that you will need is listed there. If anyone who is a victim of violence or having their rights violated for simply doing what Linda did, the state of New York passed the New York State Bivens Act. You have the right to sue federal law enforcement and seek compensation for that.
We will see if this is the beginning of a surge or more of an isolated incident. Murad, Councilmember De La Rosa, thank you both for joining us today. We'll follow up.